many events in your life do you remember with the sort of clarity that you do the chase? That white Ford Bronco, then the case itself, which captivated the world. It still does. A new series might challenge what you think you know about the trial. It's called Is O.J. Innocent? The Missing Evidence. And with our preview, Detective Derrick Levasseur. Good morning, Derrick.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
It's nice to be with you today. Throughout this six-part docuseries, would you explain to us the focus and exactly what's brought to light here?
Well, there's a few things. Obviously, there's some theories brought up about what had occurred the night of the murders, and we investigate them as thoroughly as we can. And the way that we do that is going back and looking at some of the original evidence and re-examining it, talking to some of the original witnesses involved with the case, so we're getting a first-hand perspective of their opinions and what they encountered, instead of just going off archival footage. But more importantly, we're looking at new evidence that's come up, and we're also talking to new eyewitnesses. And in addition to that, we're verifying each piece of information that we can to the best of our ability to hopefully kind of validate whatever theories are out there, or negate any ones that may not be truthful. So that's the ultimate objective of the show, and by the final episode, I think we were able to do that.
It's asserted that some things were overlooked by authorities in the beginning. Do you have any prime examples you'd point to?
Right. I wouldn't necessarily say they were overlooked. As far as the evidence that's new, they weren't aware of it. And I can tell you, after speaking with the lead investigator on this case, who's on our show, he said right out that if I had known about these new witnesses and these new pieces of evidence, we would have done our due diligence and looked at them thoroughly with a clear eye and seen what we came up with. But it wasn't brought to their attention, and they weren't aware of the information, so they could only go with what they had. But it's still important, and it's still an open case. It's still active, and that's why I think it's our responsibility as investigators to bring this new information forward, and not only let the viewers view the information, but also if the LAPD feels that it needs further investigation, in their professional opinion, they can do so.
The series also contains some new interviews. You mentioned witnesses, but also relatives of the victims, Nicole Simpson and
Right.
Ron Goldman. And I always felt like, you put yourself in their shoes. I think a lot of us did. And so much of the focus was on O.J. Simpson, but you never want to forget those who lost their lives. When you talk to their relatives, what is their message today, Derrick?
Right. Well, and you bring up a great point. You know, I'm a parent myself. And a lot of the times the victims are looked at as numbers or pieces of evidence. And my main objective with speaking with them was to try to understand who Nicole and Ron were as people before this heinous incident, to understand that Nicole was a mother, she was a sister, and she had a life, and she had goals and aspirations, and that was unfortunately cut short. So having their blessing to go forward with this, hearing where they are today, they've moved on with their lives, but having them essentially give us their blessing to continue on with this investigation to see if we uncover anything new was all the motivation I needed, because ultimately that's who I'm working for. I'm working for the families and to try to give them some form of closure that they may not already have. So it was a pivotal to the case, and it really instilled what I was there to do. You
are a detective in Rhode Island. Our viewers might...
Right, I'm actually a sergeant. I got promoted.
Oh, you got promoted. Got it. Oh, I didn't mean to demote you.
I was a detective for 4 years, and now I've been a sergeant for about 5.
Well, I'm sorry to get that wrong at the beginning of our visit here.
It's okay.
But our viewers might wonder, as I am, how you got involved with this, since it happened more than 20 years ago and so far away.
Right.
I mean, LA to Rhode Island.
Right. Yeah. So essentially, obviously, as we said, we had Bill Deere, who originally came in here with this theory, and he's pretty steadfast on what he believes happened. But in order to give any credibility to the investigation, you have to have impartial investigators. And that's where myself and Dr. Chris Mohandi come in. You have myself. I've been an investigator for 13 years, but I was also very young when the original case took place, so I don't have the biases that most people have. I'm coming in with a fresh perspective, and because I'm younger, I bring kind of an unconventional approach to the investigation, because that's how I operate these days. And then you have Dr. Chris Mohandi, who is a criminal psychologist, very respected in his field, but was also part of the original negotiation team at Rockingham when they were trying to talk down O.J. Simpson when he still had the gun to his mouth. So these are people who all bring different perspectives, are all from different generations, and are all going to give their own opinions, whether they line up or not. And I think you need something like that when you have a case that's going to be viewed by so many people.
Is O.J. Innocent? The Missing Evidence premieres on Investigation Discovery Sunday night at 8. Sergeant, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Mary. I appreciate it. Take care.
You too. Mike?